Morena, Namai Horimai, welcome to the ordinary meeting of council this morning. Apologies, we have a number this morning. We have John Pemberton, Pete McDonald,
Councillor Cook and Councillor Roy.
and Councillor Morrison. So there's 5 apologies. Would somebody like to move those apologies be accepted? Moved by Morris, seconded by Jeremy. All in favour will say aye. Aye. Item 3 is declarations of interest.
Yes, I have one, sorry. Just later on in item 10.5, that relates to some of the discussion around the, what are they called? The topics for discussion at National Conference, the district licensing, the liquor licensing conversation. My husband's the district licensing commissioner, so just declaring that, and I'll keep out of that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. No further declarations. Right, we'll move to item 4, which is public forums, petitions and deputations. At this stage, I'll welcome, I think it's Ali Smith and somebody else coming forward for the Palestine Solidarity Network Aotearoa. You have 5 minutes to present, then we'll move to questions of clarification. So welcome, and the floor is yours.
Good morning, and to the Chair and Councillors, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Ali Smith, and I'm here as a local member of the Palestine Solidarity Network of Aotearoa, and I'm someone who loves this place, Southland, someone who believes that our values, fairness, justice and compassion should be reflected not just in words, but in action. I'm someone who cares about where we stand and about how public money is spent. Today, we are requesting a small and responsible step from this council. We're requesting that the council updates its procurement policy to exclude companies listed by the United Nations as complicit in illegal Israeli settlements in the occupied Palestinian territory. I won't read the full resolution. It's been submitted in your agenda notes, but let me be clear. This is not a boycott of Israel, and it's not a sanction. It's a basic ethical housekeeping measure. It's about ensuring that Invercargill's funds are spent or aren't spent with companies involved in activities that the international community and our own government consider unlawful. New Zealand's official foreign policy supports a 2-state solution. These settlements built on occupied land are widely recognised as a serious obstacle to peace. The list we refer to was compiled by the United Nations Human Rights Council in 2020 and has been updated once since. That includes around 90 companies, and the link is provided in your notes. Other councils have already taken this step. Christchurch, Nelson and Environment Canterbury. And they found little to no financial impact. And Christchurch and Nelson in fact found that they weren't doing business with any of the listed companies. But adopting the policy ensured that they were acting with integrity and demonstrated a commitment to ethical considerations in public spending, reflecting a growing trend among local governments worldwide. This proposal aligns directly with United Nations Security Council Resolution 2334, co-sponsored by New Zealand in 2016 under a national-led government, and it remains bipartisan policy and is supported by all major parties. The resolution states clearly that Israeli settlements have no legal validity and are a flagrant violation under international law and a major obstacle to peace. And it calls on countries to distinguish between Israel and the territories occupied since 1967. In July last year, the International Court of Justice reaffirmed this position, and it ruled the occupation illegal and in breach of international laws against apartheid and racial segregation. The court gave Israel 12 months to withdraw and confirmed that countries like New Zealand must not provide assistance that helps sustain the occupation. This was endorsed by New Zealand in a UN General Assembly vote. That is precisely what this motion supports, ensuring our public procurement policies don't support companies involved in illegal settlements. So why raise this at local level? Because international law protects small countries like ours, and upholding that law, even in modest ways, strengthens a global rules-based system that we rely on for trade, security and sovereignty. Decision makers within this council have already shown a willingness to modify procurement to include climate-related obligations, And so a precedent has already been set around responding to global issues. Government Procurement Rule 44 allows agencies to exclude suppliers over human rights violations. And while councils aren't legally bound by this rule, the Auditor General encourages compliance and notes that failing to meet such standards may carry legal risk. There is precedent for taking ethical stands at local level, flying the Ukrainian flag or declaring Invercargill nuclear free in the 1980s, along with over 100 other councils. We've also received statements of support for this proposal from around 10 local businesses and organisations, including local Christians, a local Catholic priest, the local Jewish community, the New Zealand Council of Trade Unions, and the Southland Islamic Trust, whose members may be here with us today. To reiterate, the proposal is specific, modest, and well within this council's mandate. It is not a statement on the current war in Gaza. We unequivocally condemn all civilian deaths and all violations of international law, both before and after October 7th. We also reject any conflation of the actions of a state with those of the Jewish people or its citizens. That said, the current humanitarian crisis in Gaza is staggering. In the first 100 days of the conflict, the child death rate was over 100 times higher per capita than any other major 21st century conflict. Meanwhile, in 2023, a newly elected and highly ethno-nationalist government declared its top priority is the expansion of illegal settlements. Plans were announced for over 5,000 more settlement homes in the occupied West Bank, while the world's attention was on a crisis of events continuing to unfold in Gaza, which Foreign Minister Winston Peters rightly called horrific and catastrophic. We must ensure we're not complicit. And some say this is taking a side, but that's the insanity of this situation. No matter where you stand on this, this isn't taking a side, because our silence and selective enforcement already has. Nationally, we've blacklisted certain actors, yet failed to act on Israeli violations that we condemned 9 years ago. We are simply asking you to end the double standard. Anything less erodes the credibility of our institutions. This is not radical, it's measured, practical, and already being done by other councils. We understand this council cannot adopt this motion today without a staff report, and so we respectfully ask that this council agree to commission such a report and that it be brought to a meeting before the upcoming election so that it can be properly considered for a vote. In closing, a common question we hear is, it's so far away, what difference can I make from here? And to that I'd say, symbolism matters. If the situation were reversed, and if Invercargill were under occupation, we would welcome international solidarity in any form. When we fly flags in support of Palestine, we receive positive feedback and public support in the vast majority. And in those moments, one quote comes to mind: I'm only one, but I am one. And I cannot do everything, but I can do something. So I respectfully ask this council to please stand with us on the right side of history. And thank you for your time and attention. Any questions?
Thank you. We'll move to any questions of clarification. Jeremy?
Just a wee quick one. Did you say the list, you had a list of companies?
Yeah.
Was it in here?
It should be within your notes, or the link to it will be in your notes if it's not already with your.
Okay, I didn't see it, that's all.
Paul?
Sorry, we've got a hard copy. It would be good to have a right copy.
Yeah.
And even now, I'm looking for the list online, and it comes up stating 112, sealed around about 2020, and I still can't get a physical list. It says a heading of saying Motorola and a couple of others, but it'd be good to get a physical list. So you're wanting us to measure and make sure that we're not buying or procuring from those companies. I was happy to hear that it was not a boycott or a sanction, because I was concerned. There's a bit of concern within me that you were following BDS movement guidelines, and I didn't.
Point of order, Mr. Clinton.
This is a question of clarification.
To ask questions of clarification, not.
So thank you for informing us that it's not a boycott or a sanction. And it'll be good to be able to get the full list on
Yeah.
the 112 companies.
Like I said, it has been updated once, so it does have that. It's 112.
And the companies like just from Israel, they're from international companies coming around the world.
Yes, yeah, understand. Thank you.
No further questions of clarification? Thank you for coming in and presenting this morning.
Thank you.
We have you pass this round. I've just got a briefing sheet that kind of summarises this stuff.
Thank you.
And I believe the talk that we were going to do from the Israeli woman in Leeds will be
Can be circulated, yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to the confirmation, item 5, confirmation of minutes. And the first is for the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council, the 20th of May. Are there any alterations or amendments to that? If not,
I'll move, Chairman.
moved by Lyndall, seconded for that, seconded by Norris. We'll put the resolution, all in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Right, we'll move to item 6, which is the adoption of committee resolutions. First up is the Strategy and Policy Committee meeting on 21st. Linda, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. Just wanted to highlight 9.1, which was the council's response to the Local Government Commission request, I suppose. And we had a really good, positive conversation about that and the need for ensuring that our ratepayers were well served and efficiently served. Along with the Invercargill City Council and the Gore District Council, we here at SDES supported a positive response to the Local Government Commission's letter, seeking some investigations into structure and purpose, etc., along with our colleagues, of course. So, but I guess an important part of that was that councillors were very keen to emphasise that we were not in favour of the Southland District Council's particular proposal, but we're grateful that the conversation had been raised, and look forward to a full and fair conversation going forward. So that was a really positive outcome from that meeting. Thank you, Chairman. Happy to move the report.
Moved by Lyndall. Any questions for Lyndall on that report? If not, would somebody like to second the recommendation? Seconded by Jeremy. All in favour will say aye. Right, we'll move to the Investment Committee meeting of the 8th of May. It's not the way of keeping it, Paul's going through the.
Oh, it's regulatory.
Regulatory.
Unless that's a typo, but on this list, it's got investment
Not like
defence.
PEA.
But on my own thing, it's got civil defence next.
Not regulatory.
Regional. Oh, regulatory. It's the regulatory committee, page 22.
I'm happy to move that.
Moved by Jeremy. Seconded by Alistair. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put that resolution. All in favour will say aye.
Which committee, what is it, sorry?
Regulatory on page 23.
So we're on page 23, which is the regular.
Like,
Aye. And
Yeah, your emails.
So then page 27 is the joint committee resolution, Southland Civil Defence and Management Group.
right, in Neville's absence, I'm happy to move that resolution. There was a number of things discussed at the meeting, including tsunami risk, the need to the new manager's report, with some conversation about alternative control and remuneration. Also a bit of talk about the building. There's a report on the AF8, which Councillor Cook chairs. And Manor Federal Emergency Management Facilitator report. That's probably about all. So I was the only one attending from here. Anybody can actually second.
I'm happy to second, Chairman, but I've got a couple of questions as well.
Yep, happy to have any questions.
There's a lot of probing questions from our Southland District Council colleagues. So I was just wondering whether there was any concern on your part.
Well, particularly over the backup for the emergency management controller. At the moment, she's on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I made the point that actually, from a health and safety point of view, that's an untenable situation, and I think they will go away and have a look at that. Which will obviously come back up at the next meeting, but that's a real concern if you haven't got funding or there's a reluctance to actually do it. I'm sure common sense will actually prevail.
One other thing, I just wanted to note that Mayor Bell thanked Councillor Cook for his chairmanship. It's Councillor Cook's last opportunity to have that role, because he has expressed his not standing for council. So that's if we could acknowledge Councillor Cook's work there, because he's done that kind of out of the usual pathway. So I would personally like to thank him for his work, and perhaps council could acknowledge that as well.
I would certainly like to do the same. Councillor Cook's actually held that role for a number of years, provided consistency and continuity. Morris.
Yes, I agree. But I do have a question about the resolution. Not something maybe we can do anything about, just I don't understand one of the words, what it means. In number 2, this is on page 7 of that report, page 34 of our agenda. That word reprieve in there, which I sort of guess I know what it means, but can you, if you were at the meeting, can you explain what that actually means?
In the context, yes.
Where are we exactly, Morris? That's
On the resolution.
on the resolution.
To adopt alternate control.
Yeah, I think that should be receive.
Oh, no,
No, it's not.
I think it means provides,
Adopt.
no, it does provide her with
Experience.
it's that she means, that she
Oh,
gets
that's actually giving somebody relief.
related.
Relief.
Respite.
Yeah, that's right. It's probably not an ideal word, but I think that is the context of clearly you can't have somebody who's on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So thanks for that.
Well, as long as that's what it means, that's fine. I know what the word reprieve means, but it just seems a bit unusual.
Yeah, it is an unusual word, but it is the
If it's grammatically correct, we could probably leave it.
Yeah.
Relief.
Yeah,
Now
I think
it should
that
be an adjective or something.
And of course, we're only approving these minutes because they go back for
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, did we get a second of we did from Lyndall. If there's no further questions, I'll put that resolution. All in favour will say aye.
Regional Services Committee, page 39.
Okay, the regulatory committee.
Regional Services.
Oh, Regional Services Committee of the 28th of May. We don't have the chair of that committee here today either. Who's deputy? You,
I just had a couple of questions on page, under questions, on page 40 of our agenda. Page 2 of this. It says that number 2 and 3 there, I thought there could have been a bit more detail about that. Some time ago, a question was asked as to the number of stock units taken out of Southland. This is in relation to forestry. It says staff are still working on this question and will share a reply as soon as possible. That seems a little bit vague. I wonder if that could be followed up on, maybe at the next meeting. And also, number 3, it says a verbal update was provided at the meeting, and I thought would have been useful if a record of what was said. Could be one of those minutes. That again might be something to bring up at the next meeting of this committee.
I can confirm
So I just
that
want to flag that now so that we can make sure that those things do actually happen, Mr. Chairman.
the Mural Forum early next month will discuss the forestry, and I think we'll have the numbers from a Great South report, which we can then we can then share. I'm sure staff could probably put some comment in there on number 3, which I'm just trying to remember that discussion was actually that we're still working on that with Kanawa. I think we're trying to. Can somebody remind me?
Yeah,
what-
so I think that will come to the next meeting, so we'll get an update on that.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it's more of a comment about the minutes themselves. If it says a verbal update was provided, then I would have thought that could have been recorded.
From that, I think we should find some narrative for that and just make sure that we have an appropriate process to get the minutes updated.
Mr. Gibson's got a question.
Yeah, I guess the 3 questions were mine and follow Morris. They're not well answered, sorry. And it was really, my goal was to find out what's actually going on within our community so we can keep reporting that back to our constituents or ratepayers. And the 2 and 3 are less than satisfactory. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And the forestry one, we will have an update on that because there's information that's come through from a number of places. It's actually not that easy to actually get numbers and acreages, but between Great South and some of the stuff that's been put out by the farming industry, I'm sure we can give you a good answer to that.
My request was only for stock numbers,
Stock numbers, yeah.
because that puts us on the way to our climate change goals.
It also puts us on the way to closing the freezing works.
Yeah, I understand that, yeah.
Yeah, but do we have any further questions on rate review? Jeremy?
Just to, obviously, we've gone through the 2 and 3. Number 1, in regards to the Waituna land or the Webster block, are we, I mean, that's we made the decision back in, well, obviously, a wee while ago, and we talked to the Waituna Trust to say that we were going to transfer. Can we just have where we're at with that a bit more? Seems to be a while back ago.
Yeah, so councillors, we're in the detail of the actual technical matters relating to transfer of land, and so there's just a couple of small outstanding matters around that we need to make sure that we're clear about, both legal and accounting matters in relation to land transfer. So the paper is due to come to the next meeting. We can update you on that before then, but the paper itself will come to the next meeting for decision.
And it's appropriate it comes to the next meeting of full council. We pass a resolution at a committee, but that final decision, we normally do what our committees say, but that will come to the July meeting.
Sorry, it's a little bit pedantic, but I think it's important for what is in the minutes. This is on page 42. 9.4, a report on Sarah Yarrow and Shane Duncan talking about the trust. And all the minutes record, it says that they attended the meeting and talked to their quarterly report. Again, I would have thought it would be useful for people who are reading these minutes to have some more detail about what they actually said.
I guess it's getting the balance between having reasonably tight minutes. I can circulate some of that report information from the last trust meeting. We are a partner of that. Quite exciting, some of the work that's going on with EnviroStrat, and it is leading edge. It's but if we can actually generate funds, and a lot of the philanthropic entities around the world are looking to invest in restoration of wetlands, native forests, etc. So it is a very exciting project, and I'm very proud that we're part of that. And some of the learnings will actually help us going forward.
Exactly, that's my point, Mr. Chairman. That, we should have a bit more detail in there, I think, as a record of the meeting.
Yeah, I accept that. I think it's fair.
Just on that,
Yep.
Chair, would it be that hard? Obviously, we have Zoom meetings, but we've got more on YouTube for all these meetings, and just within the comms, just in regards to have links to parts, like when Waituna that someone could click on that and it takes them to that part of that meeting. Like, just to give the people who are interested, oh, well, they've come in and give us a report. There's nothing here to say what they've done. That they have links in there online when they look at the agendas. And we would have thought in this day and age that might be quite simple to do.
I think it's
Simple.
Just
But it could be like
just add it
certain
as an
parts of the
appendix.
things. Because, yeah, but the reality is we keep the agenda short because of the workload. We've talked about that, keeping them condensed, but then again, we've got the situation, we've got to get balance that people can actually.
So I think this is all good quarter process, and what I would say is that what's happened here on a couple of these occasions is that there's not been papers presented to this committee. The better practice is that these presentations are included in the paperwork that comes to the committee, so that the minutes are reflecting matters that people can go back and look at. On the matter of links to the committee meetings, I take some advice on that from Dem Services as to just to ensure that that's actually meets the local government standards. But I do think that both of these matters relate to people discussing matters that there were no papers for, and so there is no record, and it's important that we do actually have access to the presentations as a matter of record. So we'll take that and make sure that that process is tidier and ensure that those presentations are linked to the minutes so that there is a record of them.
I think it's a good point. The Waituna Trust is an entity we're involved with. I'm currently the co-chair, but there probably hasn't been a clear linkage. And once the minutes are approved, they should naturally go to all the members of that trust, the parent organisations. So I'm sure that can be rectified. So thanks for that. Did we haven't had a mover or a seconder yet for?
We have over.
You might be the mover. Seconded by Morris. Flip the resolution. All in favour will say aye. Aye. Right, we'll now move to the Finance and Performance Committee meeting of the 28th. Morris, would you like to comment on the meeting?
Well, I don't think there's too much more I need to say. The minutes are a good record of what happened at the meeting, but if anybody wants any clarification, then yes, Paul.
Paul.
It's quite amazing how I second motions when I'm not in the present list, even though I was there. I just checked on YouTube to make sure that I was at that meeting. So I'm noted as not being there. So it'll be a wee bit of an oversight to have me not there, but also motioning and seconding.
Magic.
Thank you, Michaela.
As far as nobody noticed you here, Paul.
Yes, I'm surprised I didn't notice that. I'm sorry.
Yes, Chairman.
So the amount that I moved.
There's no further questions. I think Morris has moved.
I'll
Seconded by Lyndall.
With that change.
We'll say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Right. So we will move to
Extraordinary items.
business this morning. I lost my.
So we now do extraordinary and official business. Extraordinary items. Page 51.
51. There's none this morning, as far as I know. Okay, we'll now move to questions. I haven't been made aware of any questions this morning. We'll move to 9, which is Chairman's and Councillors' reports. We have a written report of. So since then I attended the Balanced Sustainability Awards in Wellington last week. Like our own awards, they are very uplifting events where you see what the innovation going on both economically and sustainability around the country. But also, it's also, and I was accompanied by Sam, great event, but a lot of it's actually the networking you managed to do. Quite a number of MPs were there to talk to Federated Farmers about farm plans and So there are always great events, and it's a long way to go for an event, but, and it'll be the last one I get to attend. But I still believe they're very complementary to our own event, and I've been quite satisfied over the years to see an event that's moved from 90% financial to very much involved with sustainability environmentally as well. So great to see some of those people there. We even, first time we've seen a market gardener, we had a man by the name of Peter Pan, which was an interesting name, that we saw what they were doing with bok choy and a whole lot of green leafy vegetables. So it's become much more diverse there, and a lot of the operations now are not perhaps a single monoculture. You've got tourism, you've got sheep and beef, you've got a number of other items. So it's great to see how that's actually advanced over the years. Any other reports or questions?
Yeah, just a question for you, Chair. Oh, not a question, really. Just a thanks actually for the written report from some of those meetings that you've been attending, because I'm getting to some pointy conversations. It's quite good to have them recorded, and also to thank whoever for the inclusion of the Southland Mayoral Forum minutes. Sometimes the magic and the mysteries of what happens at the Mayoral Forum have been indeed a mystery to me. So it's good to have that included in the pack this time. Thanks.
We have to thank Rachel Miller, who's attended a number of these meetings, including the regional services meeting, and has been able to give some bullet points to make sure we get good coverage. Any further reports or questions? Jeremy?
Yeah, Councillor Morris and I attended the health engagement group in regards to wetlands on Craig Collins property in Balfour. Certainly sitting around the table around here, I thought I knew most things about wetlands and what was going on, and I was actually really taken back by some of the activities and permitted activities. So I asked the question in regards to these wetlands. It was really quite encouraging to see what people were doing and learning. One was is it the bioreactor where they digester reactor, sounds nuclear, doesn't it? Sorry. Digester in regards to them actually creating something underground that they actually cover again and work with that, but it actually filters through wood chip. And the results on that is pretty good in regards to improving water quality. So, you know, that really took me by surprise. I hadn't seen something like that, and I thought I'd seen most things, but so it's good. It was a good turnout, good speakers, certainly good words spoken about working with the East too, just working through the logistics of doing these things. So yeah, overall it was a good day, good tolerable day. Cold as per usual, but no, good.
Alistair?
There's a very good article in the Otago Daily Times this morning going right through that whole field day and all the people that are involved and what they're all doing. So it's worth reading.
Yeah, probably just a shout out, I can't make it myself on Friday, but there is a field day on the Waikawa catchment, talking about sediment loss and wetlands. So it would actually be great if we've got some councillors could actually get to that one and just see what's good. They all always appreciate it when we can turn up, and again, it's an area we've actually put some resource into. Any further reports this morning? If not, since we didn't get time for a bit of a break earlier, we might break at this stage of it for an hour for a coffee break, and just remind people that we can't have anybody leave the room or we lose our quorum when we're doing business. So if we did, we'd have to actually stop. So this is a chance for people to have a short break, and then we'll be back promptly at 11.
Move to adjourn. I'll move, Chairman.
Moved by Lyndall, seconded by Jeremy, that we adjourn.
Councillor Evans. Please wait
No,
till we
it's fine.
voted to adjourn, otherwise you've left and we can't vote.
Aye.
Aye.
You and I disagree.
Thank you.
And you get this. Because I hear.
Preemptive strike.
coming up.
Just you, give you a 2-minute warning to get back to.
It's a long way to walk.
10:59.
Oh, you don't have to have a comfort stop again, do you? Sure.
Yeah, I've seen the.
So if somebody-
You're assuming it's tea, councillor. And that mug, it could be anything.
We're coming up for 11 o'clock.
I'm watching the
11 o'clock now, councillor.
Okay, I think we're on 11 o'clock and we'll resume the meeting and we'll move to item 10.1, which is the Chief Executive's report. Will, would you like to comment on your report?
Yes, kia ora, and thank you, Chair. This is a report for the slightly longer than 6 weeks since our last council meeting, which takes us through the part of May and into June. The report covers all of the major functional areas of the organisation, and I will welcome questions on any of the matters in this report. We certainly have the general managers and their teams here to be able to answer questions for you. Couple of things in relation to the work that from the Chief Executive's office is that in addition to the matters that are in this report, of course, there's also been the letter from myself to the Chief Executive of the Local Government Commission went out during this period also. That letter is available on our website along with background information and our media commentary on that. As part of that, I just wanted to reflect also in the last few days that I have written to the editor of the Otago Daily Times just to clarify Environment Southland's position with regards to the possibility of a local government amalgamation. On Monday, I noted that the Otago Daily Times reported that council was unsupportive of amalgamation in the headline that was part of that report, and it was not particularly clear in the body of the report that council, in fact, had favoured a single unitary council and urged the Local Government Commission to investigate all solutions that would lead to the greatest benefit of Southlanders, but also that the council's position had been that it did not favour the proposal of the Southland District Council, as it was unlikely to provide a financial benefit and add complexity. Those were all quite clearly stated in the letter to the Local Government Commission, but I felt that that was not particularly reflected in the way that the ODT's report was presented, and the headline didn't help. So just to be clear, that was the case, and thank you to Councillor Ludlow for commenting on this also in relation to the Strategy and Policy Committee meeting. So that was just an update on where we were at with that. And those matters, of course, are matters that continue to be a topic of important conversation amongst the regional sector at the moment. That leads me into the rest of the report. Of course, we're in that excellent time of the year, which I always really enjoy, which is the community award season, where this council, councillors and executive representative go and get to see firsthand the work that's going on in the region to support sustainable activities on behalf of a very thriving Southland Murihiku, and everything from school projects through to industry and of course the farming sector. And so that has begun, and there will be of course the actual award ceremony, which will be after the elections, and is it before?
No, it's before, I think.
It's just before.
October 3rd.
Beginning of
Oh,
October.
it is the 3rd, yes, I was thinking it was the 13th at the same time as the elections. So it's next and just before the elections, that's excellent, so I withdraw and apologise on that matter. And also, as the Chairman mentioned, the same with the Balance Award. So it's a really good season for us. There's a lot of work's been going on in the comms area around bringing our attention to those matters. Also, the Chief, as you will have noticed, if you have been following my updates to you councillors, we're in that period where I'm required under the Local Government Act to encourage people to stand in the elections, and that is a rather important matter for us as we're heading into the time to declare whether people are going to stand, which is coming up quite soon. So there have been meetings across, that have been participated in by all councils to meet with the community and people who are interested, who may want to stand for local government, including this regional council. That I hope we are all able to encourage our community to consider participating in that, especially knowing that we have councillors retiring and that there will be interest, I'm sure, in this particular council and its work. Happy to take any questions on any other matters, just wanting to highlight a couple of areas though. In the science area, there have been some, we had our first air quality breach of the National Environmental Standard just a few weeks ago, and there is an update in here actually on our air quality monitoring, which I think that the science team will be able to talk a little bit more about if you're interested in that, and what we're doing to actually ensure that we've got a quality monitoring system in place, particularly in Gore. There's a few other matters in here I'd like to draw your attention to. One is the matter of how we would be managing a bird flu outbreak in this region. Some commentary about the Mid-Dome meeting and raising interest nationally in ensuring that the work of the wilding pine removal is not actually undermined by a lack of funding. And then there is some updates that you may be interested in relation to harbour management, not least in relation to the fact that we did have another incident in Bluff Harbour the other day. We've also had some success in removing the Marilyn, thank you. I was about to call her the wrong thing. The Marilyn from the Bluff, from Riverton as well. So, councillors, commend the report to you. Happy to take questions.
Morris.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Wilma. Once again, this is as usual. It's a very comprehensive, interesting, and informative report. It just occurs to me that if anybody wonders what Environment Southland does or doubts their value, all they need to do is read this and see all the wonderful things that we are doing. My particular question is about the Whakamana Te Waituna, that the Waituna and the work that's going on there has been selected by the Ministry for the Environment Nature Credits Pilot Scheme. There is a paragraph about that in here, but I wonder if you could just elaborate on that a bit more and tell us a bit more about it, how you see it might work and how it might benefit us in particular.
So I'm looking to see who might be here that is working on such a project, and I'm not entirely certain I've got anyone in the room. So the pilot scheme, which was announced by the government as part of the, well, it came off the back of some of the national direction announcements around the budget time.
Yeah.
It's not a large amount of money, but it is acknowledging the work that has been going on, looking at how the creation of wetlands can fold into biosecurity and carbon credits. Mm-hmm. So it's a modest amount of funding, but it follows on from the work that we've been doing with the trust and with an external agency to look at how that model might be something that could extend at scale elsewhere in the region. And I know that there's been, as I say, it is actually a modest introduction. These are all pilot schemes that the government is actually funding, and because we were already party to that particular piece of thinking, I think that there's an exciting future for that. I'm not sure that biosecurity or carbon credits are highly valuable at present in terms of their tradability, but there is, and there's been some work on by the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment to suggest that they've got mixed kind of potential in terms of whether they're a viable alternative to creating wetlands. But I think that there is something there for us to explore, particularly in our own lands and in areas where we really do need to do things at scale to manage the impact on estuaries. So Waituna is, of course, our big pilot project in that space. And so we're very grateful to have the money, and hopefully we'll roll forward into our thinking about the rest of the lands that we might own and also other opportunities around wetland creation in the region.
Yes, if I may, the nature credits concept is an exciting one, but I'm sure you'll agree that quite a few hurdles to get over in terms of finding some measurable way of assessing the biodiversity credits and then getting somebody to buy those and provide a value back to either to us or to the private individuals who own, say, a forestry block, and getting value for that out of that without, in a credible way, internationally recognised way, all that sort of stuff. So it's a wee way to go in that path.
So we've been thinking in this space for some time, and initially around carbon credits first. And then, of course, biodiversity credits have entered the market, and they are actually performing slightly better internationally at the moment. The question is, exactly how much incentive comes with those, and so it's a matter of looking at that in terms of scale. There are certainly organisations that are very interested in this, and so EnviroStrat, who we've been working with both and thinking about our own lands and also in this pilot, have been thinking in this space for some time, and they certainly introduced us to the Pollination Group, who are part of HSBC Bank, who are looking to invest in this kind of biocredit and carbon credit work. And also there are other organisations in New Zealand who have got a real interest in this that came out of our initial investigations into green investment opportunities for council. So this is a very live piece of strategic thinking, and Waituna is a really important pilot in this regard.
Thank you. We've got Alistair, then Robert.
Yeah, I was just going to make an invite. Anybody who wants to come on that judging thing for the environmental awards, I'm happy to take my car free of charge, and we'll go round for a day if they want to do, or whatever. It's just so important, not important, it's so enlightening to find out what the hell's going on in this province. And I think I made a lot of noise last year afterwards to get some young new councillors on, and look what we've got. Nicole and myself. We're both young, aren't we, Nicole?
Well, we're young at heart anyway. I should actually probably mention that the staff asked me if I'd like to do it, and I actually need your endorsement. But it's something in 18 years I've never done, and I'm actually really excited about getting out with Alistair and actually meeting the people who have put their hand up. It will be my last awards, so it's putting pressure on my diary, but I've really always enjoyed getting out and meeting people and seeing what they're doing. And in the chairs role, sometimes you just don't get to the other things get in the way. You've got to go and represent the council somewhere else. So no, I think that'll be good, Alistair. We've still got till the end of the month of the 30th of June is the cut-off. So anybody listening, if you know somebody out there who's doing great work, nominate them.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Chair, through you, just with regards to that, you did say that you've got pressure on your diary to fill your visiting days. Maybe it would be an idea to have someone as a supplementary when you can't visit, because then you just only really leave with Alistair.
Yeah, that's not good.
So a supplementary, I feel, would be quite.
We have in the past actually had somebody else who could step in. For consistency, we probably do want all the judges there, but I think that's a good point, and if somebody wants to put their hand up to be for that role.
But
You should be.
I know. I'm just saying that on the other way that I can take help. You to be able to do that job, since you haven't done it before. I'm happy to fill those holes. Maybe has a role. So there's other ways of doing it. Make sure Nicole can enjoy it.
Yeah.
So
I can move that.
just, make sure we know. We'll work that out.
And thanks, Jeremy. I know the Woodland will certainly support any gaps. Robert.
Yeah, I think it's important to get out of the office more. We can see what farming's all about. And I just wanted to speak to Paula's comments about funding from various agencies. Just to note that there was a very interesting program on Radio New Zealand yesterday where I don't recall who it was, but it was a person talking about their strategy for attracting funders, not only from philanthropic New Zealanders and elsewhere who want to be part of and why I'm saying this is because he described a three-way process. The first was an awareness program where they were just making people aware of what there is that's going on out there. The second leg of the stool was making people aware of who they were. And then the third part was how, the actual project and how to link up and do it. But I just don't know if your team has a strategy like that. And if not, you might like to listen to this program, which you can track down from yesterday.
Yeah, no, thank you for that.
You may already know all of this, but it was very interesting and very effective strategy he was working to.
And just on that, at the last trust meeting, I suggested we actually do a synopsis of what we've achieved over the time we've been there, because if people forget, and I think we can be very proud that the fact that we actually be one of the 4 pilots. A lot of work's gone on over the years, and we're seeing it now in the wetlands things with the quite a bit of money went into the living waters things to try and strip out nitrogen, phosphate, sediment. All those things have a ripple effect, and I believe that our freshwater initiative would stand up right at the top of the list for what's happened over the years, and it's the benefit that goes forward, and the advice strap work, it is leading, again, it's leading edge. We have selected an international supplier rather than the New Zealand one, because that probably gives you better links. But this is very much at the start of the process, and again, if this comes off, it'll offer an incentive to landowners all over the country to perhaps protect land and enhance it, which will have greater water quality benefits as well as biodiversity. So it's the old story. Councils are always struggling for money, and if we can leverage in this way, I think that's really good. Jeremy.
Yeah, just got a couple of questions. One is around to slow the flow. If we actually, I think there's workshops and interviews. Have we got any data on that as yet to be provided to us? I'm just making sure I haven't missed anything. Are we going to have something at the end saying here's this?
I can see it. Hello.
Just where are the timelines and things to get to see the stuff?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Snell. The Miriaku Slow the Flow project is just coming to the last month of the project. Yesterday we had the entire technical team here, so the various consultants who have been supporting, as well as the GM for Science, met to bring together the technical results for that. So all the way along, we've called it a pilot, the opportunity to explore what a catchment approach to floodplain management looks like for Southland, and what that would look like, and how we incorporate those nature-based solutions for flood risk mitigation. There's a lot of capability building that's required to come along with that kind of understanding and an approach like that. So the pilot has successfully highlighted the information that we need. It has built on the likes of the flood risk modelling that we've done for the Matoda, and has enabled us to look at land use beyond just sort of the river management, floodplain management aspect that's needed to do that, to do the flood risk modelling for the Matoda, for Goa and Matoda. So the results are going to continue to be quite high level, because it was done as a way to be able to see the entire project through, to fully understand the breadth of work we needed to do. I can confidently say that using the 5 nature-based solutions that we put forward, at the extent that we put them into the scenario, there was a reduction of flood risk to Goa, but it's a multi-generational approach. We're saying there's quite considerable land use changes included in that modelling, and it's going to take time for us to achieve that level of land use, as well as achieving benefits in freshwater outcomes and biodiversity and recreation and wellbeing as well.
When will we see that? Just as a next, well, you're saying finish off the next month when the summary or the understanding when you're making conclusions. I'm just trying to get the councillor again. I'd love to see that. So,
More than you.
yeah, no, I'm making sure we haven't seen it. I haven't missed it. That's cool.
No, not yet.
So
but
are we going to have a good workshop or? Trying to understand
yes,
detail on
and
that.
a key component of that in terms of the report for bringing together the Ministry for the Environment deliverables as part of that funding, but also then what does that mean for Murihiku Southland? Yep. So that will be the report delivered by the end of next month.
That's all good.
So end of next month, in August, we're likely to get a bit of a look at it.
Yes, alongside it will inform several of the other work streams, that we have at the time as well. Yep.
Good. I've got one more question, just around the nitrogen reporting. Donna, I see, it was just a comment on allowing, sorry, I'll get back to my screen here. In the reporting, helping people through, is it more like the dairy industry have to do it? But with the fertiliser companies, it's pretty easy to click, send it through. And I'm just trying to understand why we're probably spending time. Is there still individuals trying to work through it? They aren't going through their fertiliser, one of the two main big players. And another question is, are you getting an indication that there has been some exceedances with the way the weather and how we're dealing with that? Because we talked about it right at the beginning, understanding that side of things. Just to give us a wee bit of an update.
So through you, Chair, yes, so anyone not using the two main fertiliser companies do need to compile their own data. And so they do struggle at times to compile that data and put it incorrectly, so which is where we get our data errors at the end. So we're supporting them up front to make sure that the data is clearer and easier for us to be able to process. The other side of that is sometimes fertiliser reps are unable to help their customers to do it, and if they're not technology savvy, they can't do it themselves. So we do sort of guide them through being able to put it through those other two main portals as well. In relation to the ones that may be over, we had less than a handful come to us and say that they may potentially be over, and the estimates are 1 to 5 kg over, so not massively. So they're very, very low reported numbers.
Thanks. I've got 3 topics if you don't mind. The first one is equality, as you might imagine. Just wondering what the results that showed peak particulate matter and not where our monitoring stations are, do I infer from that we're going to have to move our monitoring stations, or are we adding to, what's the kind of implications for that, please?
Through you, Chair. So there's value in keeping our current sites where they are because they provide a good long-term record, which helps us understand change over time. So the plan for GOR is to install a site which is going in the next couple of weeks at West Gore, which is near that peak location. So that'll go in for 2 years, which will help us build a bit more data to kind of confirm this study, and then we'll reassess from there.
If I might, any in Invercargill that need to shift?
Yes, so as you'll recall, a similar study was done in Invercargill with a similar kind of outcome was found that our site was not ideally located for the standards. So staff are still working through options, but we'll probably look to do a similar thing there where we'll have to do supplementary monitoring in order to ensure that we're compliant with the standards.
The other part of that, I guess, is Gore had some exceedances for the first time in a few years, so too early to tell, I guess, but potentially the changing climate or changing behaviour? No ideas.
To be determined, I guess. But we do studies that do look at, I guess, changing input sources. So every kind of 4 to 5 years we do commission studies.
Yeah.
So we might have a better idea once that comes up to be done again in a couple of years. And we have also done surveys to understand, behaviour in terms of equality as well. So it's not done every year. So
Thanks. A couple of other things, Chairman. Wearing my strategy and policy hat. The 4th national direction package has come out since you wrote your report, Wilma. So have you got a first impression of that at this point?
So you're referring to the one that we had a bit of a briefing on last week?
Yeah,
Yes.
the last one.
Yeah, so I think the thing is that there's no, from our perspective, the sector's been working very closely with itself and also with the, Ministry for the Environment. So there's no real surprises to us in the direction of travel. I think what we're still waiting for though is the detail. And because, we live by statute, we deliverers of legislation and government standards and government directions. So we really need, I think, to see the detail of that direction. I think government's certainly been very clear in where its direction of travel is taking us, and we know that it's heading towards a very major change to the RMA, but all of the devil is in the detail. And so we're looking forward to seeing that. Certainly, the team is very much geared up for that. So just like Hayley might like to just talk about what we're doing operationally in order to support that process.
Absolutely, thank you. We are developing a series of policy positions. Some may have noted that Environment Canterbury has come out with what they call position statements, which are supporting their involvement. This is actually something we had started quite a while ago. What these policy position statements are, they're not new statements. They're drawing on council decisions, on council's adopted plans, strategies, policies, procedures, but it essentially synthesises all of that into clumps of matters in a way. I think that's how we're sort of colloquially calling them. So, for example, aquaculture. What does Environment Southland hold to be true? What does it want to achieve with respect to a matter? Aquaculture, forestry is another. And how essentially fleshes that out. They're not long. We intend to workshop them with council through the Strategy and Policy Committee, and then of course to council. But it's very helpful for staff, and they are engaging not just with the Ministry for the Environment, but with other government ministries that are involved as kind of, I guess, companion ministries to the large amount of reform that we're going through. And it's the firm foundation upon which we then can stand in order to then speak to the Environment Southland position.
So Chair, just to that as well, because we did discuss, I think it was at a previous strategy and policy meeting, that we would do this. That it gives this council the ability to provide a briefing to the incoming council on what this council's policy advice to that incoming council is. So, and that enables us to be part of what the staff will then prepare as its briefing material to the incoming council, which will include this council's endorsement of its existing policy positions.
That's excellent, and it also means that when we're talking about comms telling our story, they are telling the story that we want them to tell. So that's great. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, all. Just a couple of things out of that. A number of you might have seen on television the other night, the LiDAR work on Wellington around flooding. I think we're probably well ahead of them, probably one of the more further ahead than most regions, and that information that's going to inform slow flow is going to be really useful. Just on the air quality thing, I know we put up temporary sites when we get exceedances that are outside the others. But I guess a plea for the next the incoming council would be to promote a it won't be solve the whole problem, but a bylaw to replace non-compliant variables at the point of sale. I've always thought it's a non-brainer, and if we go down the process in the next couple of years of one regional plan, there could be an opportunity to put that in there. And just briefly on, we've been complimented by Great South for the work our staff have done on putting the data onto the Dish website. I think we've probably been more proactive than a lot of the other councils. So well done, guys. That's the one point of data information for people all over the place. So that's also good. If there's no further questions, would somebody like to move the recommendation? Have you got anything to add? We did talk about.
Yes.
We want to respond to the.
Yes, so that was just to say, councillors, that in addition to the recommendation that council resolves to receive this report, considering the delegation that came in from Palestine Solidarity Network Aotearoa today, they did ask that council make a resolution around supporting them in relation to goods and services from companies identified by the United Nations Human Rights Council being involved in the building or maintenance of illegal Israeli settlements on occupied Palestinian land, and suggested that you might ask us to provide you with a report on whether we work with any of those companies and what the options for this council might be in order to make a resolution or such a resolution. So I could invite the council perhaps to request that the Chief Executive organises a report on the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2334 in relation to the purchase of goods and services, and comes back to a future council with that information.
I would move that, Mr. Chairman, and I would second.
And I think it probably needs to be high level. We don't want to waste a lot of staff time on it. I suspect that there's very little, but at least if we go through the process, we get a report, and if there's nothing, there's nothing.
Thanks, Chairman. Just so long as the report is clear about our current procurement policy and our current investment policy. I think that's as far as it needs to go. Thanks.
What's the estimated time on that? Because we've got a lot of other things that we need to get done.
Yeah, I don't think this needs to take too long. The list,
Half a day?
the list is reasonably comprehensive. It's not an enormous list. I've looked at it on the United Nations website. It's a matter of bringing back a very straightforward matter. I don't think it will take more than a day's piece of work.
Been moved and seconded. Any further comment? I will put the resolution. All in favour will say aye. Aye. And then I guess that also includes accepting the Chief Executive report. Moves happy with that?
Yep.
All good. Right. We will move to 10.2, annual plan and related matters. I expect we might have that coming forward, are you?
Okay, so following consideration of Finance and Performance Committee, probably just a few summary comments to make and clarification on the instructions from the Finance and Performance Committee. Just some summary comments. Key movements in the annual plan compared to the long-term plan. We'll see our surplus change from 0.3 million to 3.7 million. However, that is primarily driven by the addition of grant revenue that was not in the LTP of 4.2 million for flood resilience work, and that can only be spent on flood resilience work, so it's not available to us to cover operational expenditure. And the grants revenue is an estimate of what we would claim for grants in 25-26. Other key movements are rates, our reduction in rates income, and that's driven by our plan to reduce rates from the rate increase from 12.5% to 8%. And there's a reduction in expenditure that will help us to pay for that. So those are the key movements between long-term plan and annual plan. and they were discussed with the Finance and Performance Committee when we met. The only other comments I have, that the Finance and Performance Committee asked us for additional information on Thriving Southland, and the report has been included, and I think Sam would be happy to talk to that if requested. And we were also asked for the response on the submissions to fees and charges. That has also been included, and I think maybe talk to that if requested. So those are the comments.
Any questions for Patrick? Morris?
Are we talking about the fees and charges at this stage? Is that part of it? Is that right?
I was saying it, no.
Yeah. Okay. Well, on page, this relates to Lloyd McCallum's submission on page 151. And I remember him saying, he was talking about the costs of helicopters for flyover of the farm, and that is mentioned in the summary of his submission. But the decision refers to, and the word aerial is crossed out, it talks to gravel. Right? I thought he was more concerned about the cost of the aerial inspections as to whether or not that should be, allocated per 5 minutes it takes per inspection or more, something like that. Is that right?
Can I just clarify what page the council was referring to?
What page? It's page 152 on the agenda.
152.
I did notice that change.
Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I guess it's, what is the scope of the fees and charges? I'm happy to provide him that cost separately. He also made commentary around the cost with respect to whether we were having a revenue gathering exercise. So was the cost of the inspections that was the gravel monitoring one relative to actually what the fee was we're charging. So I prepared a table which you all have seen, which a version goes into the response for him, but we're happy to provide what the cost of a helo trip for aerial inspections costs us per day, inclusive also of staff time.
But Mr. Chairman, there's an inconsistency in the summary of the submission and the decision. Because he was talking about the cost of a flyover, and the decision talks about gravel monitoring, not aerial monitoring. So, because I remember clearly he was concerned about helicopter flying. I don't know if anybody else thinks this is an important point or not, but it just seems to be a little bit inconsistent there.
And so we probably need to cross out gravel and put aerial back in there because that's consistent with the.
Through you, Chair, I think it would be useful to do both. If that's right, because I've
Because you
also
can look at
looked
that
at
at the
his
same time.
written submission as well, which spoke to that. So I think in order to be most helpful that we can be, if we provide both to the submitter, then I hope that will provide them with a good satisfaction with respect to our review.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that would be good, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Alistair?
We were meant to get a breakdown on this completely, so as we know that the charges are fair. And then we can make a decision, do we contract that work out? Are we too expensive in doing it? What do we do?
Through you, Chair, I believe that was provided to you all, and indeed there was some commentary by individual councillors on that. So
Did you
I
get it?
know it went to at least some of you.
To Jeremy.
Yeah.
Everybody should.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Further questions at this stage? Jeremy?
Yep. Yeah, I can. Why we did receive it obviously raises a few questions too in regards to what, and I think the aerial side of things. You've provided the information, Mr. McCallum stated that to give it to us to have a look at, not to him, so that was all clear. I'll support Morris in regards to, I was going to look at YouTube to look at the meeting, what he actually asked for and what he say. I ran out of time last night. just to clarify that aerial side of things, but it was about the aerial. I think there was, it's obviously something contention around there. And so the information is there, so that, thank you, I'm just saying thanks for that information. But in the future, we might have a sit down and just to explain some of the things too for us as councillors.
Yes, through you, Chair, if I may add to that, obviously when we undertake those aerial flights, we are looking across a broad number of matters with respect to compliance monitoring. And so different staff are attending with essentially different functions as well. So we don't, for example, just do aerial inspections for intensive winter grazing. We're looking for quite a wide range of aspects that we might monitor through consent.
So that should be more efficient and more.
Indeed, that is indeed why we do that and how we pick the staff that we do in order to drive
We don't see that
efficiencies.
though. That's
Yeah.
the problem.
Unfortunately, that's not the way that the structure
Yeah.
of the fees and charges
We
work.
can have a about that at a later date.
Look, on the question we asked about core funding for thriving, I think the consensus was we felt working with thriving was an efficient way of getting work done, particularly in the wetland creation space. But we did have a degree of discomfort with becoming a core funder. So where have we landed? I see the recommendation doesn't use the word core.
Through you, Chair, on page 150, there is an update from Thriving, and I have confirmation that this is not core funding, this is specific projects. There, 4 of them are outlined there on page 150, it goes over to 151.
No, that's excellent, and that was, I guess, that was the direction that the meeting felt that we should, yeah. I'm glad that's been clarified. Morris.
Just further on this, Mr. Chairman, there was concern expressed, maybe more by the urban councillors, that we're not providing funding for a particular activity that really should be funded by the participants. So while I'm not unhappy to to agree to this at the moment, I do know that Thriving Southland does a lot of really good work. I think we need in the next year to have a conversation about, to what extent we should be funding projects that people who potentially might have an adverse effect should be doing that themselves. Really is quite a core issue for our budget and how we fund things. So I hope that over the next year leading up to the next annual plan, we do address that issue.
We did discuss it at the time, and I guess this is more about wetland creation, and often it might be the sub-catchment level. And you're right, at the end of the day, landowners are going to put money into that, but we're still probably in that development stage of getting stuff done and measuring the success of it. So I think from a scientific and actually going back to the regional forum, this is one of the key things. But I think we can take it. Well, I won't be here, but next budget, you council will consider that.
I think it's good. If there are benefits to the wider community, from that stuff, then that's all good.
Robert.
Councillor Rodway makes a very good point, and it's about democracy. And I think that if we are going to continue to fund that agency, we really need to talk to people, our people, about that, and particularly the urban people, because of the changes that have happened to our rating system. There is some disquiet about funding operations in the countryside, so to speak, which we really need to address by asking people what they actually think. And this would be a good focus for that, I believe.
That's a good point, and we may well have an urban catchment route set up because the Auckland route, and that's been one of our debates, and even on the amalgamation issue, it's very much about, I think Southland's most joined up community, and probably in New Zealand we rely on each other, and there's always going to be overs and unders. However, I'm getting off the topic here. Alistair.
I think there's 2 areas where that came from. I think Lyndall wouldn't talk about it, but I've been pointing at it to get her to do so. She's
Sorry, read your
spoken
mind, councillor.
with Richard down at Thriving Southland regarding getting a catchment group or that type of thing. And it also came out at the council, the liaison chairs meeting too, to try and get something going within Invercargill, because there is quite a lot of area around Invercargill that there's wetlands and all sorts of things, which then helps to pull everybody together. So sorry, but everybody. And I think we can develop that, and well, those of us that get back in the next term.
Any further general questions, or are we ready to move to the recommendations on page 59?
I would like to move that we go through them one by one. Recommendations.
Well, number one is pursuant with section 100 of the Local Government Act 2022, confirm that the 2025-26 annual plan has been prepared based on reasonable judgment and assumptions, and the projected financial results are financially prudent given the council's financial position.
I'll move that, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Morris, seconded by Alistair. Any discussion? I will put number one. All in favour will say aye.
Aye.
Two is agree to providing a contribution of 215,000 to Thriving Southland for the 2025-26 year. Moved by Alistair, seconded by Jeremy. Any further discussion? I will put that recommendation. All in favour will say aye.
Aye.
Number three, pursuant with section 95 of the Local Government Act 2002, adopt the 2025-26 annual plan. Do we moved by Lyndall, seconded by Morris. Any discussion?
Yes, I'd just like this to be a good point where I raised it on a few occasions regarding our rates increases being well above the curve of inflation, and I really feel that we are getting to a time where we need to address it severely through managing our operational costs of some sort. We're focusing on amalgamation currently and reducing costs through that, but ultimately at the end of the day we haven't managed to be able to reduce costs through. Every year we're rating our ratepayers more than the curve of inflation, and it's unsustainable. So I'm happy to talk about that more, but I do seem to raise it a lot, and that's why I wanted us to go through this one at a time, because I want to note this in this meeting that I will not adopt it at the moment.
That is you're right, but I guess in our defence, we've worked pretty hard to reduce from a projected 12.9 down to 8.8. We'd like to do better, but we can't do it all overnight. And I'd note that we are probably, compared with a lot of other councils around the countryside, we are back in single figures. We may see, I think we will see in the next 5 years there'll be a restructuring that will save money, but you can't do it overnight. I'm reasonably satisfied that we've had the scrutiny and the diligence to get to where we are. Any other comments?
I think it's got to be made that there is money coming from the rates. We last year were 21% or whatever, and we pulled money out of our leasehold reserves. There's some money coming out again. So the reality of the 8.8 or whatever it is not true.
We've had a mover and seconder. I think.
Nobody agrees.
Well, I'll put the motion. All in favour will say aye.
Aye.
Those against, once it's recorded. Alistair, do you want your vote against recorded or not?
I did vote for it,
Yeah, you voted for it.
but I want it made clear.
So just Alistair's, Paul, sorry.
Don't mistake me for you.
And could we just clarify that last year's rate increase is 12.6%, not 21?
No.
Okay,
Don't
we'll
argue
move-
with it right now because I'll get towed.
Order. Number 4, adopt the 2025-26 fees and charges schedule.
I'll move that, Chairman.
Moved by Lyndall, seconded by Morris. Any further discussion? I will put the recommendation. All in favour will say aye.
Aye.
Number 5 is delegate the authority to the council's chief executive to make alterations of minor effect or to correct any minor errors to the adopted 2025-26 annual plan and the 2025-26 fees and charges schedule. Moved by Robert, seconded by Morris.
Mr. Chairman, I just note that that was, that would relate to that discussion we had before about,
Yes.
submitter.
Yes, thank you. And any other small typographical errors that we find in the document.
With that explanation,
Is it limited to something? Because otherwise it just happens.
It relates exactly to what we just said, which is the things that you've raised here and any minor matters that we find, like typographical errors in grammar. They're minor effects, nothing that requires a decision from council, just minor matters like misspellings.
Point of clarification, I wasn't going to be voting, but we need 7 votes to put this through, don't we? Just, yeah, I've got a conflict of interest, probably should just, I mean, it's around the fees and charges, we always said it's in the play, but I'll vote anyway, so just use my name.
Well, I think you can say that you could have a legal confidence.
Yeah, I'm not, just to keep it clear.
No greater than.
I know,
Yeah.
it's always the same.
I think that there's a reasonableness about whether you're caught up with the generalities of these matters on behalf of the region. And I think that we're not voting on changing very specific matters. You're adopting the whole of the fees and charges schedule. I think it's reasonable safety, councillors in that. Yeah, no, I'd like to give you some confidence in that regard.
That's fine.
Moved and seconded. I will put that recommendation. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
And finally, number 6, approve draft responses to submitters on the 2025-26 fees and charges schedule and river management funding review.
I'll move that, Chairman, and thank staff for their more fulsome responses and that alteration that we've already alluded to.
Moved by Lyndall, seconded for that.
Yep.
Every seconded, any discussion? I will put the recommendation. All in favour will say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We will now move to 10.2, so we've still got 10.3.
No, 282.
10.3. Page 182. Okay. You want to comment on this, Patrick?
Just a brief statement. The rates resolution paper is asking council to set rates for the coming year by resolution and allow penalties to be applied to unpaid rates in the new manner.
Any, Jeremy?
This is reasonably straightforward unless anybody wants to talk. I'm happy to move the under 4 if need be.
I'll second, but also say I still don't like the fact that we had everybody with their rates bill at the end of the year. But I understand.
But there is opportunities. for
Yeah,
people.
yeah, now, yes. Noting those
So
opportunities.
moved and seconded. Any further discussion? I will put the recommendations 1 to 4. All in favour will say aye.
Aye.
So that will move to 10.4, which is Regional Software Holdings Director nomination. It was approved by Patrick.
So I'm quite happy to
You may want to
speak,
speak to this.
I was going to say, I'm quite happy to speak to this, Patrick is actually in the paper.
Yes.
So the annual general meeting of Regional Software Holdings Limited comes up later in the year in November. And since I am retiring on the 29th of August, I therefore step down from the board of RSHL, where I was elected by councils to be a council representative, which leaves a vacancy for that annual general meeting. So this process happens every year, in which those opportunities for councils to nominate individuals to be on the RSHL board comes up. And Patrick's indicated that he would like to put his name forward to this council to be nominated to be on the RSHL board. I would support that nomination. We've been quite integral in ensuring that the RSHL CCO is, updating and modernising its constitution and the way that it's working. It has got a very large project that is an IT-based program, which is the next generation of IRIS, that is looking at delivering a cross-sector solution for all of the work that regional councils do. And we are quite, our part in this is to be quite late in the process, so actually keeping and being well over the matters that we learn on the way is going to be very beneficial to this council. We haven't attached Patrick's CV to this, but I can assure you that his background is very strong in this space. And so if you were interested in putting forward another senior staff member to this board, I think that it will provide some continuity and be very good and beneficial to us and to the sector in general.
We were one of the foundation members of RSL that have joined, so, and I think having somebody with Patrick's financial experience and rigour would be a very good addition. Those who've read through, it was RSL's mistake, but on page 202 it talks about you can nominate one independent and one independent. It should read not one non. But that's by the by. I'm certainly happy to support.
So
sounds like we all know. We need to move. I'll move, Chair. And Linda, will you have
Yep,
to
absolutely.
second that? Any further discussion?
Do we need to amend the second recommendation to be specific? So we can receive the report and
nominate.
And
nominate Patrick.
and nominate, I guess we put forward Patrick's nomination name for board nomination. Is that good wording? Having heard the recommendation, any further discussion? I will put the recommendations 1 and 2 as amended. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we have a 1 minute break so that I can go to the toilet.
I believe,
The stopwatch
councillor,
is
that
on.
you can leave the room for no more than 15 minutes without it affecting our.
You've got,
Well, it
you've
won't
got
be
3
that long.
minutes.
The stopwatch is on. I've started the clock.
It's getting quite personal now, isn't it? File a report when you come back, councillor.
We need to wait until the secretary to make a recommendation.
We can actually continue.
We can continue. We have 15 minutes before it affects our standing orders. Some nice
We'll
timing.
move to 10.5, which is the Local Government New Zealand Remits 2025.
So through you, Chair, just to receive the report and then for council to actually consider the actual table on page 216, each individual remit, there are 5 of them. Staff have actually provided some rationale around whether we should support or not support each remit. And I suggest that we go through each remit and agree or disagree to actually support or not support, and then direct our presiding delegate to go to the annual general meeting and actually vote on those matters.
So, we can discuss, councillors, we can't vote until the council chair.
So if we go and actually look at the table, our first remit is with regards to security payment and actually having an allowance through our local government members' determination to actually provide for a security payment for elected members. Our recommendation is that we support this and provide that payment going forward. What I can actually say as an update to this is that the determinations actually come out yesterday.
Right, yeah.
And there is actually information in that determination and it is actually supporting a payment. We'd have to decide whether we'd agree with that to actually bring that in. It would come in the next triennium.
Payment to New Zealand.
Elected members
We
of this
we
council.
need to circulate, that's only right yesterday, but the Remuneration Authority has just put out their determinations from the 1st of July, which includes payments to all councils. But they've also added the ability to claim for security, which almost nullifies this remit. I guess we can still support it in principle, but it looks like things may have moved on. But Lyndall.
Yeah, just sorry, I haven't read the determination, so just to be clear, the pool of money that the council gets for the councillor payments, this security payment will come out of the existing, it's not an addition to, and it's for personal home security systems for any councillors who've got them installed, especially if they don't feel safe, right? Thank you.
And I think, I can't remember off the top of my head, I read it yesterday, that there is a limit to what you can actually claim. But
So can I just clarify, that is it additional to the fund?
I haven't fully read the determination. I just note that it has actually been included. What I did read very quickly this morning, because I only received it this morning, is that you wouldn't actually be allowed the allowance unless there had been a situation.
Oh, interesting. Too late by then.
Yeah, and then it's to support you after that, so that it doesn't occur again.
So in terms of this paper, it really makes no difference whether you support this at this point because it will work its way through. And if there are any differences between this remit and the determination that's come out yesterday, then LGNZ will take those forward anyway. So I would suggest that you still address the matters that are in the remit.
okay, obviously those who there can listen to the debate, but what's the feeling of Jeremy?
I was saying, does it cover us from internal security risks within our house when we're late from coming back from meetings and the problems we have socially? No, it doesn't. No. That's more of a risk for us. Yeah.
I'm sure we have EPA available for you.
It's good to see that there's some sort of system being initiated. I understand the way that you've noted that for noise after, during the weekend, not an overall umbrella. Here's some money, which I think will be wasteful in some way, shape, or form. So it's good to see that we've got something there. So,
And I think initially we were a bit lukewarm on this, but when we sort of heard it, debated it at the zone, and generally it tends to be Kiwi or woman, but actually the examples were actually male. So it's not, we live in a bit of a different world out there at the moment, and people that put up their hands should be able to feel that their families are safe. So in principle, I guess I see. So I'm not hearing any negatives on that. Right, number 2 is improving joint management
So
agreements.
do we need to, it's got everybody back?
We have everything. Right. I'll move from the chair that we support. Seconded by Jeremy. All in favour say aye. Aye. Number 2 is improving joint management agreements.
Are you taking each round one by one?
Yes.
I'm not sure I understand this.
This is sounded really soon.
Can I just ask if the joint management agreement is what we have? Same thing, or is it something else?
So I can't speak to that. I think we have a memorandum of understanding with Te Marama, which would be different.
I'm not sure whether I understand what a JMA actually is.
People like in their own situation with Noto and having settled, I'm not sure it's such a big an issue, but maybe it's one we can give discretion if there's no strong feelings either way for actually hear the debate.
I'm happy to support it if I understand what it is.
Well, I think the point of this is that maybe not all councils have this, and so the RMA provides for us to have the kind of agreements that we've got, but if your other councils perhaps not. So that this would not cut across our
But
kind of understanding.
it would allow others to have a arrangement.
Can I just ask about that with regard to the effect of the RMA on this issue? If the RMA is about to be turfed, does something in this cover that possibility?
I mean, the government has not indicated it's going to change any of the matters relating to Kiwi and the RMA at this stage. So I would say that this, to take it at face value, the question is you are actually supporting matters that are across the entire sector as opposed to specifically to ourselves. And so the question is whether you are giving our proxy the ability to vote at the AGM.
So that we agree that LGNZ indicate to the government that there is in the future JMAs for all councils. That's basically what it is. And whether we say, yeah, go ahead and support LGNZ to advocate government for that.
That's probably the gist of it.
Yeah,
that's the
It's
remit.
passed, yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And given that Mike Trent has had some input into that staff feedback, absolutely.
So you like to move that we support?
Oh, I will.
Moved and seconded, all in favour say aye.
Aye.
Right, we'll move to the one that's you've declared a.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. Interested in, so alcohol licensing fee.
Jim, do you want me to leave the room or will I just stay quiet?
I think you can remain, you've declared an interest and you're not going to vote, but it's up to you actually, it's the.
Do we have an issue
But you
with
would
only
want to
6
have a quorum
councillors
if you leave.
voting?
So if we're clear and we read this, the LGNZA again wants support from this council as well as all other councils to advocate for government to update the sale and supply of alcohol, blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't relate to us, it relates to the other authorities. So all the other authorities are going to be voting at the LGNZ to say yes, that's fine. And we just go with the status quo.
So I think 2 things, Paul. One is, does Councillor Ludlow have a legitimate concern that she has a conflict of interest, which removes her from her ability to vote? And if she does, then we don't have a quorum.
I suggest we take no position on that one, that'll solve that problem. It's been put up by Northland and specific issues there.
And that is the recommendation from the staff, is that we have a neutral position on this.
Neutral position, okay.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
how do we record the fact that we're not voting on this matter?
Seeing it's a neutral position, I don't know that we have to vote on the matter.
Okay, so can we just note that in the minutes that staff have advised to take a neutral position and that the council discussion supported that? But we don't have a resolution.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, number 4, aligning public and school bus services.
So is LGNZ recommending that regional councils take over school bus services?
All other regional councils do it.
It doesn't affect us to the same extent.
We can vote no. I would move that we vote no.
So the situation for us is that this particular piece of work is actually delegated to ICC at the moment.
Yep.
That delegation could change in the future. It has an impact on us if it actually does change in the future, and then we'd actually have to take on that additional work for transport. So the recommendation is that we don't support it, considering it would actually impact us with regards to capacity and resourcing.
I move that we don't support it.
I've listened to the argument. You've got some areas where sparse transport services, but not there. People either can't get on, some people can get on, some can't. And I can understand the issue that there's a duplication efficiency issue that doesn't affect us personally, but it's different from region to region. And yeah, but taking no position or not supporting, that's fine. It doesn't. That's,
Do you need a vote on that, Jim?
okay. So
I'll move that we don't support it. And overarching, we're looking at the whole amalgamation process, and ultimately at the end of the day, we've got one, we talk about trying to save money and integrating services. And in this case, we are slightly different to the regional councils, but it's integrated already. So I'd say I'll support the move, I'll support it.
Well, I don't really want to second it. You know, situations like in some of the cities, we got public transport buses going past and kids have to pay a lot of money to get on them. There should be some assistance here. I don't understand it fully, but on the surface of it, it seems that the remit is a reasonable one to me. Even though I would like to be involved, I think about other councils.
Yeah, I would support Councillor Rodway actually, although it's not in our wheelhouse per se. The impending regional plans and potential cost savings for our colleagues around integrating public transport and school buses, and I'm got an interest there too, I suppose. I actually think that some work needs to be done on that, so I would be not supporting this particular recommendation.
we're going maybe to one we don't take a position on and allow the delegates to listen to the discussion. It's not something where it doesn't affect us personally, but I think often in the past we have the delegates listen, because we do actually stymie ourselves to a certain extent if we're rigid on everything and you get along and think, oh, now I've heard that, I've got a different view. So I'm happy to move we have a neutral position on that.
Yeah, I'm happy to support what our team have actually stated. It's very clear. We have a unique situation down here where we sort of pass on the public transport, but I do understand that this is not, we're not in a common place around public transport in regards to that. So probably best to listen to the rest of the councils around this, but I'm happy and we've stated.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman, if that's what we're going to do, allow the delegate to consider the arguments and vote accordingly. But perhaps have at the back of their mind, just listen to the arguments.
No, it's complex in some areas where they're not allowed to pick up children or whatever, and this whole fear type thing is causing some real angst in Christchurch and Wellington. Okay, we'll put that resolution in the take an neutral position. All in favour say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Yeah, Michaela, on what it is that we've agreed.
Neutral position on the aligning public services.
Allowing delegates to listen to the debate.
Yeah, we've captured the second part, that's what I'm thinking. Thank you so much.
Okay. Support.
I'll move that. You support that, Chairman?
Removed. Second to that one, Morris. Any discussion? We'll put the resolution we support. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move to 10.6, which is the council's.
So 23.
Okay.
Alternate delegates. If the presiding delegate is absent to vote in accordance with the council's decision. Is that going to be-
Don't worry, David, you need to.
We need to do 0.3, which is the alternate delegates.
All in favour of that, please.
Sorry, Chairman, can we just be clear about who those delegates are? So you're the top dog.
Yep.
Who's the alternate that's accompanying you to?
Who's going to?
It's in the report that the alternate.
Sorry, just want it to be clear.
And Rachel is the non-voting.
She's the
He's
alternate.
got standing in for what we always be seeing. Okay, so it's.
Should Peter be going with you at any rate? Remember what?
Oh, he'll be
He'll be
there, but
We-
Yeah, he's
You only get
going.
one vote.
Do the
The
vote.
reality is the three of us will sit together and we'll little clicker, but we only get one vote. That was it. Okay, so that was, so that we put Peter McDonald's name in there, is it? Presiding delegate and the alternates.
you know, so
It is there.
we just need to be clear that.
Got that down. Moving second for that?
Yep.
Moved by Lyndall, seconded by Robert. All in favour say aye. Right.
Thank you.
Right, move to 10.6, which is the councillor's diary update. You can see the list there. Are there any additions?
Request to leave of absence from 28th of June to the 8th of July.
No. Go on with that one, yeah. Okay, any further?
I think I made I asked for the 8th to the 20th of October, but was told it was over elections.
You still need to have leave though,
Yeah,
right?
so I asked for that last time and I noticed it's not noted.
We should probably note it through, at least through to the
It
end.
wasn't noted here. It's
Yeah.
not that I can see.
It needs to be there though.
It's got everyone else, so the 8th of October, the 20th of October.
This is really
Just scoot here, I understand the situation, I'll make a quick phone call, we're not voting, do we need to vote?
Can we please do this recommendation immediately?
And then we can move it on.
Yeah.
I'll move those, Chairman.
Okay. And we all, perhaps we add in that, the Waikawa catchment group meeting, which is on Friday, so that anybody who attends.
Sure.
On that note,
I'll see it.
Jeremy's just moved the recommendations 1 to 3. have you?
I have.
Jeremy seconded. All in favour say aye. Aye.
Can I just keep you for 1 second to move and vote that we go into public excluded, otherwise we can't vote to go into public excluded.
Okay, moved by Jeremy, seconded by Lyndall, that we move into public excluded for the reasons that,
Are we finished? Sorry, just looked at me there for very quizzically. We need to read the reasons.
So the reasons we're moving into public excluded is to prevent disclosure of or use of official information for improper gain or advantage. Also to enable any local authority holding the information to carry out without prejudice or disadvantage commercial activities, and also to maintain legal professional privilege.
further reasons, and it was it moved and seconded? Or? Moved by Jeremy, seconded by Morris, all in favour say aye. We can suspend the public transmission.
We don't have any other councillors online, so you, oh no, we need